Good morning.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
How are
How are you doing?
you?
Good, thanks. How's your morning?
It's been crazy. I won't lie. It's been crazy. So I had a PT at 7:45, then back to do a live workout with the Month with Me gang, and then we've just done a little Zoom chat, and I signed off like, "Bye guys." I'm literally going to put some blusher on, get a drink of water, which I've just spilt all over the floor, and
I thought
then
I heard a noise you forward. I was like, I think she's just spilled her
yeah,
water.
all over the floor. It was a full glass and now it's this, but it's only water,
Oh,
so things could be worse.
no. But you brushed your hair.
Yes, I've just done a little bit of dry shampoo. It was a weighty workout this morning, so we didn't really get sweaty, so I was quite happy about that.
And your new fringe is working out well for you, isn't
Do you
it?
know what the funny thing is about this fringe is that I now feel like I don't need a haircut done. It's so funny
Yeah.
because I was desperate to get my hair done, and the fringe now has just been like, oh, actually, I don't feel like I need to go to the hairdresser so quickly. And I had there's a great girl in Frome who did um, this new like balayage where it's like the stretch roots, which is basically where you don't need to have your hair done for like 6 months. And I had it just before lockdown happened, and I was like, oh my God, how cool is that it just happened, like this was just like the new craze before lockdown.
Good timing.
Thank
Good.
goodness. So where are you? Are you on the
So
top floor of your house?
no, this is there's another floor above me, but this is the I guess the spare room slash office
Yeah.
that's now become where my husband spends all of his time. And I don't know what everyone else's lives are like, but there's something about my work that I have to do that, squashed in a little corner somewhere. Um, my husband is allowed to have, a desk and a view of the garden. um, but I have to do it, standing on one leg whilst cooking the tea. So yeah, don't get me started on that.
I've just literally sent Josh out the house. So I was like, you can be here for the live and the Zoom, that's fine. But the actual chat with Laura, I need you to like vacate the premises. So he's just like chucked the kids in the pram and is walking around endlessly around Warminster now, just like my other half
Round.
kicked me out.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully it'll help me sound intelligent if I'm sat somewhere that's associated with good brain vibe, I suppose.
So, I am really excited to have you on today, and I've just actually been speaking to the ladies that are on Month with Me,
Yeah.
about kind of learning. So, although I'm a PT, like I haven't done a nutrition degree, that isn't, my thing. But my thing is kind of to teach people to eat well, not do any crazy diets, exercise more, feel good, be kind to themselves. But there's only so much as a PT, like we know, without going back to basics. And so it's really nice for me to actually kind of reach out to people like yourself and say, look, I don't have all the answers for people, but you kind of do. So I think, a lot of people that I deal with massively struggle with the best way to get to where they want to be. And it's a really, I don't think anybody really knows where they want to be, but I feel like if you're eating badly and you're not exercising, mentally and physically, you're feeling quite crap.
Mhm.
So I feel like it's not for me always about losing weight or looking great, or it's about what's happening inside. And I know I've been in bad places, and I know that while I was in those bad places, good things that have helped have been eating well, exercising, feeling good about yourself, giving yourself a bit of a break. Um, but at the same time, it's kind of like um, eating from scratch, not buying jars, not doing things like that. So the part of the science that comes in is where kind of, you are the expert of that area. And I think, people will get confused about, what a dietitian is. And me and you are going to talk today about the damage of diets. So I think
Hmm.
to start, it would be really great if you said like what a dietitian is, like what can people get from a dietitian?
Thank you. Because I think people think that they know what a dietitian is. And I think I've probably spent most of my career telling people that I'm not what they think I am.
Yeah.
So I think, well, you know, the word dietitian, unfortunately, isn't great, is it? It's got the word die in it as well as the word diet. So I don't think it necessarily paints a good picture. But essentially, I'm a registered dietitian, and my background is in healthcare. So I've worked in the NHS for 15 years. And so the basic difference between a dietitian and a nutritionist is that a dietitian is trained in sort of medical nutrition therapy. So I can work with people who have medical diagnoses of which food might form a part or diet might form a part. Nutritionists, registered nutritionists, are trained to work more at a population level. So they work usually within the food industry, or in public health, you know, around messaging that affects the whole population, whereas I'm more about the individual,
Yeah.
essentially. And there are lots of other weird and wonderful titles around nutrition. This is not about me getting on my high horse with you, Angie, so I will just say to people to just be really clear about who you're seeing, how they're qualified, and just be really cautious if they're not a registered nutritionist or a registered dietitian, basically. Yeah. So it's a bit of a minefield out there. And I think to go back to what you were saying about, you know, your job and your profession, I think, you know, we are all able to play to our strengths, and I am not giving out exercise prescriptions to people. I do not have good knowledge of muscles and anatomy in that respect. You know, I know what I'm good at.
Yeah.
You know what you're good at. And that's, you know, there is a wonderful synergy between those two things when we stick to strengths, I think. So yeah, that's my job, basically. I suppose since leaving the NHS, I've been able to do different things. So as well as working with people on a one-to-one basis, I now also consult for some food brands and help them with their food messaging. If any of your followers know the Bear Yo-Yos, then they usually feature in our lives as parents. So I'm the nutritionist for Bear, and I also work on sort of workplace health initiatives and going into companies and talking to employees and things like that. So I get to now do
that you do that.
Yeah. So I love working with people, and I love food, and I love science, but it's nice to apply it in lots of different ways.
Yeah. And I think workplaces are actually being much better now at kind of motivating and it kind of inspiring their staff to be a little bit healthier, because we all know if we do a workout in the morning or eat a good breakfast, we're much more productive for the day ahead. And I've actually got a couple of PT clients who are on like a system with their work that the person who, you know, does the most exercise or does this or does that gets like a prize at the end of the month. And I think it's great. And it doesn't have to be, you know, that you're hammering workouts. So just be walking, just getting outside. And they did a lot of it over lockdown, which was great. Good morning. There's a couple of people saying hi. So I think like that's amazing. Like if workplaces aren't sure how to kind of motivate their team or kind of put an initiative in place to be a little bit of a better employer to work for, that's a great thing to do, because you really will get the most out of your staff, I think, if you are invested in their health, in their wellness, their mental wellness. So I do think that's like an amazing thing that you're going out and doing that with other people.
Yeah, there's huge links, but also let's not forget in all of this, and we're going to touch on this in a bit, but you know, let's not forget, you know, we're not robots, right? None of us are robots, and this is not a knowledge thing. This is not, you know, me going into places or me sitting in front of people saying, oh, you really need to, you know, eat more apples and eat less chips. You know, it's like literally the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
We have to understand that there's that interplay between our environments, our head and our body. And actually, if we understand fundamentally how that all works, we can look after ourselves better. But unfortunately, it's such an emotive subject. Everybody has an opinion on nutrition because everybody eats.
Yeah.
And you get, you know, mixed messages, stuff that's made up, a whole load of, you know, and it just all gets a little bit cluttered. And so my message is about, you know, let's eat it real. Let's cut through all of that crap, quite frankly, and let's actually look at this objectively.
Yeah.
And I do that in all of, you know, in all of my work and whoever I'm working with.
Which is nice to kind of, it's nice to kind of, excuse my language, but kind of cut through the crap sometimes. And that's it. Like, you can have somebody that comes to you is like, oh, but I've been told not to eat any carbs. Oh, but I've been told that I need to eat loads of this. Oh, I've heard that if you you go to this calories or you get it, and then the next year they find out that actually that was a load of rubbish. But it's basically just a marketing tool to sell what's cool at the moment. And I feel like people don't know how much of the diet industry is so about marketing. And just it's like being on trend. It's like a denim jacket coming into trend. So everybody, you know, goes and buys their denim jackets, and everybody says that denim jackets are the best jackets to wear and stuff. Everybody jumps on board of that, and the magazines and the, you know, the YouTubers or the Instagrammers will all jump on that and be like, yeah, this is the best thing. But actually, if you think about it, next year that denim jacket will be out and something else will be in. But we will have all bought that denim jacket because somebody told us to do so. And they will tell us that we will look best in that denim jacket. And then next year we'll be like, right, okay, I'm going to the leather jacket because that's what's in. And it is all, it's just the fashion.
But I think that here's the crazy thing, right? Our weight is as genetically predetermined as our shoe size, right? And yet the shoe reduction industry or shoe size reduction industry it doesn't exist. And it's not worth, you know, billions and billions of dollars. So there is something there, as you say, about the diet industry creating this whole kind of, you know, smoke and mirrors thing. And charging people a lot of money to talk, you know, a lot of crap, but they're selling an ideal, aren't they? And that's very appealing.
No, and that is the thing. It's like when you buy an outfit and you look at the woman in the magazine, you're like, I want to buy the outfit because I want to look like that. And then it turns up and you're like, I don't look anything like that woman in that outfit. Like, it's quite funny how you can have a bit of a giggle with yourself about that. And it's funny that no matter what size you are, or how great you are, or how toned or fit you are, that nobody ever looks at their body. And I say this all the time. No woman ever looks in the mirror and is like, I'm absolutely happy with that. Like, we all have our hang-ups. Like, there's always things that I can change. But I really find myself at a peaceful pace with my body. And that's kind of what I want to give to people. I would love to give that gift to everybody and just say, you know, just work out well, enjoy your food. And it kind of comes, if you're working out and you're eating well, you will get yourself naturally to where your genetics say you should be. And I would love skinny legs, but that's never going to happen for me genetically. That's just not in my makeup. I'm a thick-thighed girl. It's not happening. So I accept that, and I don't look at women with skinny legs and think, oh, I wish I had those skinny legs, because genetically it's not going to happen.
But I think as well, it's about unpicking what eating well looks like, because I think we still think that to eat well, there has to be an element of, oh, look, you know, this food is pretty Instagrammable today.
We've just been talking about this. Actually, it's so funny you just said that. So on the Month With Me, somebody was saying, I feel like my lunch sometimes, I'm not making enough effort. I'm not doing this. And I was like, it doesn't have to be pretty. Like, it just has to be fuel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, if we look at all of the research, why do we have in our heads that if we've eaten a donut, we've somehow cancelled out, you know, the rest of the good things that we ate that day? Why do we feel when we have a weekend of, you know, booze and crisps that on pizza or whatever, you know, that on a Monday we suddenly have to go back to having a green salad? You know, the core of your diet, the stuff that you eat, you know, quite a lot of, doesn't get cancelled out by all of that other stuff that you perhaps wouldn't think you could photograph and stick on Instagram, right? And this is where social media is largely unhelpful, because we have this notion that to eat well, you know, it has to be or it has to be clean, or it has to be natural, or it has to be this, or it has to be that. And all of these words carry no scientific meaning whatsoever. They're just giving food some kind of moral high ground, which is just, quite frankly, more damaging than it is helpful.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, having, you know, cheesy beans on toast, for example, you know,
my favorite Friday night.
It's not, you know, it's not doing any damage, you know, and yes, of course, you know, we've got messaging around, you know, fruits and vegetables and fibre and all of those sorts of things. I'm not saying that the diet is balanced, but what I'm saying is that this myth of what eating well looks like is all tied up in, oh, well, I'm eating all this wonderful clean food, but actually I'm bloody miserable and I'm bloody hungry. You know, and if either of those two things are existing in your head right now, if you're feeling fundamentally hungry or fundamentally just a little bit depressed about the food choices that you think you should have to now eat to be healthy, then we need to talk about that, right? Because that's not right. So, you know, we just stick all these labels and all these morals on top of food, and the phrasing around, you know, stuff being guilt-free. Oh, it's a guilt-free ice cream, it's a guilt-free I mean, it's just so toxic. All food should be eaten without guilt, because as soon as you slap a layer of guilt on top of whatever habit it is that you're doing, you feel really bad about it. And if you feel really bad about it, you're likely to give yourself you know, to berate yourself, and then probably then go ahead and eat a whole bunch of other stuff because you feel
exactly.
So we have to be really careful about, you know, what that eat well message looks like, because it's been misconstrued and misinterpreted now by so many people, particularly, you know, the kind of the wellness bloggers, you know, who have, you know, fair few more followers than you and I do, unfortunately. But we're getting a heart smiley face. Thank you.
I think that's when we were saying, like, eat your cheesy beans on toast. And I do think it is. So it's also like to each and every person's life. So that beans on toast that I have, I love that, and I will never feel guilty about that. But there might be somebody in somebody's life that's like, my favorite thing to eat is a takeaway from the shop down the road. Like, it's okay to enjoy things like that. But like you said, it's having that balance to say, I'm going to eat well and feel well, so I don't beat myself up about that. But I think if you're eating badly 100% of the time, you are depressed. But then if you're eating perfectly, not perfectly, it's not even like the perfectly, that's the wrong word. But if you're eating clean all the time, I've been there. I've been massively depressed. And I talk about this openly in, like, Josh was ready to leave. Like, he was like, you're no fun to be around. You don't drink when we go to friends for food. You don't eat what we eat. I had become the most boring person. And I was the smallest I've ever been, but I was the most miserable I've ever been, you know? So it's kind of like, don't do that to yourself. And actually, what are we searching for? Because I feel like that was a whole host of other stuff that actually was nothing to do with body image. It was control and it was stuff like that. So it is massively important to, and I say this so much, it's not the one treat that you have, it's then the being angry with yourself for having that one treat that then goes, oh balls, I'm just gonna like go in the cupboard and eat everything. That's where the unhealthy part of diets and stuff comes in, which is scary to me, because I see how much this is ruining people's lives. Like, I have so many people who are genuinely so unhappy when they come to see me, and I'm like, this is so sad that so many people are living their lives so unhappy because just about their food, or and it is trying to just say to people, like, just love what you're eating, have what you want every now and again, exercise. So not because, you know, you hate your body, and it's cliche, but it's so true. Exercise because you want to feel good, because you want to get old and be able to play with your grandkids, or, you know, get out of the chair without being stiff and awkward, because you want good bone health. And it's that things that I want people to kind of come to me for, not because they're like, in 6 weeks I'm going on holiday and I want to feel good in a bikini. It's like, it's so sad that people feel that, shockingly, and that's sad. It is such a sad state.
Yeah, I think though that you know, we're talking there about, you know, listening to your body, aren't we? But there's a lot of people who actually don't trust their body anymore,
Yeah.
and they want to listen to it, but they're not actually sure what it's telling them. And unfortunately, if people are dieting, or they've dieted for many years, they do start to lose the signals that their body is telling them in terms of when they're hungry, or when they're full, or what the definition of full even is, because it feels different for different people. So some of the techniques that I work with people around is all about retuning back in, but it's so easy to say it. And for some people, they might be like, oh yeah, I get that. I can do that. I can do that now. And other people, they're like, I don't even know. And if they've been brought up, for example, with a parent who's had difficulties with weight, if they've watched their own mother,
so many people is in that group.
You know, they've already come at this from, you know, a slightly rocky place.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, you know, even we can see now, even in children and teenagers, where, you know, the rise, eating disorders are going up, right? And we are putting straight away on children, oh well, you can't possibly be hungry, you've just eaten, you know. So straight away we're telling people whether they should eat or whether they shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
And yet we are born with this innate ability to regulate our appetite. That's what a baby does, right? If it's hungry, it cries. And yet very, very quickly we start to slap a whole load of, oh well, no, this should be enough, and this, that, and the other. So people switch off from those signals, or start to distrust their body from such a young age.
So true.
That's happening when you're a teenager, and then, you know, swoop, along comes diet culture and social media, and oh, but you know, you need to get thighs like this. You know, it's no wonder that the women that you might then see in their 20s or 30s or 40s are there saying, oh yeah, Angie, I'm totally with you, I'm totally here, I'm hearing you, but actually I still feel really lost about how I'd even do that now.
And that's
so
it, like, nobody really knows hunger anymore. Like, people say to me, I don't really like eating first thing in the morning. If you're not hungry, like, listen to your body, eat when you are hungry. But I don't think anybody really eats when they're hungry or stops when they're full anymore. We kind of just go, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. That phrase haunts me. You can't be hungry. I will never say that to my children, because it translates as you're lying. And you know what? That's so true. And probably I'm quite guilty of even doing that to Harry. So Harry's 3, and he just all day, Mummy, I'm hungry. Can I have something else? And I'm like, Harry, surely you can't still be hungry. But he will eat and eat and eat. So I know you've got to be mindful of the fact.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things there. I think, you know, just to go off piece a second, I think for children, it is our responsibility as parents to set a routine, because what we're talking about here essentially is teaching our children to recognize the difference between physical hunger and head hunger, essentially. As we get older, that head hunger might then be interpreted at, we might call that emotional hunger, or, you know, it has different names to it. And if we start to use food as a coping strategy, or when we're stressed, then, you know, then there's that dimension. But it's really difficult, actually, when you're working with someone who's an emotional eater, and let's face it, you know, we all have coping strategies. Yeah. So, you know, let's not make out that, you know, people who seemingly have it all together don't have a coping strategy of some sort. So we all have a coping strategy, but to work with the emotional eating side of it, as you said, you know, the emotional eating is not the issue. The issue is something deeper than that, but the emotional eating is the plug, if you like. It's the thing that's being used to plug the, you know, the deeper thing. But you can't unpack emotional eating if you are actually not eating in tune with your body. Because if you are physically hungry, but you're emotionally eating, you're like, well, I can't seem to stop eating these biscuits, but is this is this because I'm emotionally eating and these biscuits mean something to me? Or is this actually because my blood glucose level is so flipping low that my primal instinct to eat has kicked in?
Yeah.
And it's telling me I need to get my blood glucose levels up. So, you know, we have a lot of people out there who are, you know, might not even be telling themselves that they're on a diet, but they're fundamentally not fueling their body.
Yeah.
And so, you know, they think, you know, I had someone post in yesterday where I was talking about cauliflower, and I was saying, you don't have to turn me into rice, okay? Like, it's okay. You can just have me as cauliflower. It doesn't have to be cauliflower rice. And someone was like, I just love her to bits. And she was like, oh my God, I've got so much cauliflower in my fridge. And I'm just going to like, that's why I bought it. But then she's like, but they're eating like a whole packet of buttons. And, you know, she was like, and I was like, yeah, because you've got to get the fuel bit right. You've got to listen to your hunger. And obviously that's tied up in, again, what you said about, you know, people misunderstanding carbohydrates. But before you can then tackle the emotional, stuff. Thanks, Ali. She's saying, I was very pleased to read the cauliflower rice comment.
And then somebody above has just put the local bakehouse. Yes, good point. But I'll offer them something to eat that someone who's genuinely hungry would want. So possibly a banana. Yeah, I always say to Harry, when he says, I'm hungry, I'm like, what fruit would you like? And sometimes he's like, nah, I'm not hungry anymore. Because they do, like, children do that. But also, like, we have got into a habit of breakfast, lunch and dinner being 8 a.m, 12 a.m, 5 p.m. So, you know, some nights you're like, right, I've got to eat. I say to Josh, what do you want for dinner? He's like, I'm not really hungry yet. But because it's that time of the day, you feel like you need to cook. And actually, we went out to dinner last night, and I'd had like a really busy day. So I'd had like my granola and yogurt, which is like staple breakfast for me. Make a homemade granola. I love it, and I know it'll keep me going if I'm busy at work. And then I hadn't really had much for lunch, and I think I'd come home and had like some peanut butter on toast. And then by the time we got to dinner last night, I was so hungry, but I enjoyed my food so much more than I would if I'd have kind of just sat down and been like, it's dinner time, I'm going to eat. And I love that feeling of eating when you are fueling your body. It's a nice feeling that when you're thinking, I know my body's calling out for this now. So I love eating after exercise. I love that feeling of kind of, you know, you are giving back to your body what it's just done in the workout. It is a nice feeling. Yeah. But we've definitely all lost touch with that. So what are your honest thoughts on diets? Like, obviously we're talking extreme diets. We're not talking where people are being mindful and kind of cooking from scratch and fueling their body. We're talking extreme diets, really low calorie diets.
Yeah. Let's be clear. I think if we're using the word diet, what we are saying from that is that somebody is, however you dress it up, they are specifically trying to create a calorie deficit between what they're eating and the energy that they're expending. So they are putting their body into a calorie deficit. Now, yes, they might be doing that in some weird and wonderful, you know, slightly faddy way.
Yeah.
Or they might be saying, oh no, I'm being super sensible, and I'm, you know, and I'm not cutting out any food groups, but they're still actually being, you know, really over cautious about what they're eating, and whichever way you dress it up, what they're fundamentally then not doing necessarily is listening to actually what their body needs in terms of hunger. And you know, I've worked in weight management for 20 years, right? So I am, even myself, very guilty of, you know, encouraging people to diet, but doing it in a very sensible way. And I have to say that I've now completely almost turned everything on its head in terms of how I practice, because I have a duty of care to practice evidence-based health, right? And we have, you know, the strongest evidence that if people are continually dieting, so if they're yo-yo dieting, jumping from one diet to the next, that in itself is the strongest predictor of weight gain over time.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that, if you think about that, that is just the most craziest thing, isn't it? That the one treatment that diet culture tells you is the answer to your weight loss problem or your weight problem. you know, is dieting. And yet actually the research shows that dieting itself is the one thing that is the strongest predictor that you will gain weight over time.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
that is just
what?
yeah. But people will still do it, and it's really funny when you talk about like the culture of like mums. So I have a lot of PT clients who have been brought up in a household where their mum has had or has a severe eating disorder or a hate for food. And I think, if I'm honest, the 80s, 90s were like the strongest part of like the diet, the really strict diet, calorie deficit diet. And actually, like, I speak openly about the fact that I'm quite at peace with my body, but I definitely feel that comes from my mum, who has never dieted. She, you know, she's always been a steady place of her weight. Like, she's not tiny, she's not overweight, she just sits. I always look at my mum and always think, you always look lovely and you always look the same. And that's because she's never really stressed. And this is a woman who will have biscuits with her tea in the morning, like, won't stress, will have a chocolate bar when she wants one. They drink. You'll never see my mum like looking at a packet to see the calories, because she's never really been bothered. But I'm so in admiration of her for giving me a great life of not stressing about the things that she hasn't stressed about. And I think if there's anybody out there now thinking, I have a really bad relationship with food, is to definitely get out of that habit, so your children don't have the same life of a battle with food. Because you might think as well, my children don't have a problem with, like, they will. There would be definitely a connection between your bad relationship and food and theirs. And I think if there's ever a time to do it, it's not to get your weight right, or to, you know, it's to kind of just think, do you know what, I want to stop this cycle. And it is this diet cycle of harm that we are breeding for our children.
But again, I think, you know, if people haven't had that solid foundation that you talk of, again, it's not their fault, right?
No,
it's not their fault.
It's so sad that just something so easy can hurt your life.
But they can, you know, there is a different way, there is another way to approach it, and there is a way to relearn stuff. And some of the most fundamental things that support our health, we don't actually ever really get taught. You know, it's a bit like parenting generally, isn't it? Like, nobody really goes to parenting school, so we're all just kind of making it up. But, you know, there are ways to do it differently. There are ways to make peace with food, to get clarity in your head. And you owe it to yourself as well as to your children to you know, to seek that kind of support, because it is so fundamental. And I think one of the classic things is that you'll serve your children lots of spaghetti bolognese or whatever, because, you know, you can tell that they're running around and they need the energy, but you won't serve yourself spaghetti bolognese, and which is just so heartbreaking, because, you know, we fundamentally know that to run a marathon, you need carbohydrate, right? There's no denying you can't run it, you know. And yet, how many marathons do you think parenting is equivalent to? Like, I'm going to do an Insta post on that, because I just think, you know, we are running the equivalent of a marathon every goddamn day, and we're doing it on less sleep, right? So we have to treat our body with some respect to be able to enable it to function. And the challenge with dieting is that it lowers our self-esteem, it lowers our belief in our own self, because we constantly feel like a failure if it doesn't work, and we think it's our fault that it hasn't worked, when that isn't the case. And yet I've lost my train of thought, but yeah, we need to, you know, we need to just take that step back and understand, you know, what's right for our body.
And it's so true that diet is not meant to work. It's meant to just keep you in a cycle of going back for more. It's like that jean jacket. Like, next year it will be a new jacket and you'll buy the new fashion, and they are making you go down and up and down and up. So it's kind of saying, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to let you do that to me anymore. I'm fed up of this journey. I'm fed up of feeling this way. I don't want my children to feel this way. So enough is enough. And,
you know, if we constantly mark our progress or our success by what the scale is telling us,
Yeah.
or what, you know, the size of our genes, then we're just doing ourselves a disservice,
Yeah.
because actually health has very little to do with weight. Again, not what you'd believe when you pick up the paper, you know, that people who are, in larger bodies are more unhealthy or more greater health risk. That is fundamentally incorrect.
Yeah.
It is far more to do with the quality of your diet, and you know, factors, you know, dieting in itself is stressful for the body,
Yeah.
right? So if you are, you know, under fueling consistently, it's stressful, and stress releases stress hormones, which make your sleep more erratic, that make you more hungry, long term, that affect your inflammation and your immunity. So, you know, we, in the most stressful situations, we put our bodies under this immense pressure, and we also, on top of that, might also eat when we're stressed. So we then have this, you know, sort of vicious circle. So, you know, we're not saying that not dieting means that you just, you know, that you give up. This is just about completely reframing it. And actually, when people are able to listen to their bodies and understand what that listening means, they're actually then able to reach their set point.
Yeah.
And ultimately, for some, that probably is, you know, a lower body weight than they're currently at.
Yeah.
You know, there's no guarantee that your weight will automatically come down if you eat more intuitively, and that's not what it's about at all. But quite often it's the dieting, as you said, that drives the weight up. So the minute you stop dieting,
It just goes
actually
back.
your body settle. So, you know, dieting has so many impacts on our mental health that we don't even realize it's doing, you know, as we're kind of tucking into our cauliflower rice and everyone else is having, you know, spaghetti, and we're like, no, I'm good, I'm feeling virtuous, I'm doing what I, you know, what's right for my body. And then, you know, like,
Yeah.
10 o'clock at night, we're creeping downstairs while no one else is around, and we're, you know, shoveling in 4 slices of toast. So, you know, we're not, we are the people that matter the most in this, and we have to respect. We might not love our body, like you say, you might not love what, you know, the way your thighs look or the way that your belly looks or whatever, but you can respect it.
Yeah.
And if you eat with respect, rather than guilt and shame, then you automatically eat better.
Yeah. It just is. So talking about like the diet cycle, I think we've probably covered it, but getting out of that diet cycle because that will make people feel nervous. Like, let's be honest, like people will be like, oh my God, to not be on a diet makes me feel like I'm just going to put on loads of weight. So is there any like easy wins of, you know, to focus on how to eat or to reset or to be able to listen to our bodies? Like how would people do that? And I know you've got the download, haven't you? You've got the download that's going to be, is that free to download now, or is that coming up?
Yeah, no, I've got that now. That's just my kind of getting clear or getting clarity with carbs, because I do find that's probably the biggest topic of conversation.
Everybody's so scared of carbs. Yeah.
That does hopefully help to sort of set the scene for people and to just, as you say, just calm things down. But, you know, I mean, I think the first part of this is also acknowledging that when you start a diet, it does actually feel pretty good, right? Because you have a new sense of hope, and there's a little bit of adrenaline that's associated with that. And, you know, and so even the process of going on a diet can feel quite addictive, because of sense of euphoria that it gives you, but you know inevitably that there's going to come a point where you then come off that diet and all of the shit that you then feel, and then round we go again. But there's lots of reasons why the idea of going on a diet is really appealing. So I think first of all, this is about starting to just every thought that you have in your head, starting to make it feel a little bit more inquisitive rather than judgmental.
Yeah.
Because a big part of this is that play, you know, is that playlist that we have going on in our heads all of the time. And if we can even just start to sort of go, wow, gosh, you know, I wouldn't talk to my best friend like that. Why am I talking to myself like that? You know, then that's a really easy first step. Just lose a little bit of the judgment and just be inquisitive. You know, gosh, you know, I really did, you know, go to town on the Indian or whatever. Why, you know, what was going on there? Had I not eaten very much earlier in the day? Was I loving it because I got to see my best mate for the first time in 4 months? Did I eat perhaps beyond the point of fullness? Did I feel a bit bloated and a bit sick when I'd finished? Or, you know, so just be a little bit inquisitive and start to tune in to your hunger. And ideally, you know, we've got kind of 0. If you imagine like a petrol gauge, you know, 0 is I feel sick, I'm going to pass out type thing, and or feel faint. Sorry, not sick, but you know, some people feel sick. And then 10 is I'm bloated, I'm uncomfortable, I'm stuffed, I'm beyond the point of kind of, you know, enjoyment, and I probably could be sick type thing. And really, ideally, we want to be sitting at around you know, a 6 or a 7. And so just be inquisitive as to what that looks like for you. And the other thing is that people often say to me when they think that I'm the food police, and it's the same with any diet. I'm starting on Monday, right? Or I'm seeing the dietitian or whatever. So you get that Last Supper effect, don't you? Because you think you're never going to get through this again. So you go a bit mad and a bit crazy. And it's interesting when I've obviously had the discovery calls with people, and then they come to see me and they're like, oh, what was really interesting is that I knew this appointment was coming up, but I didn't suddenly go mad. I didn't eat the contents of my fridge because I knew that you weren't going to tell me not to. So even just saying to yourself, enough, take a breath. You don't have to diet anymore. You don't have to. You don't have to forbid any food. You just don't have to. And you know what? If you can crack that, actually you're going to be healthier for it. That sense of relief, I think, is also a really important first step for people. To just know that they just don't have to, because with each diet that follows, it gets harder and harder and harder and harder. And that's because the body is putting in place all of these mechanisms, because it's thinking, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go again. You know, we're heading into starvation. We're heading into, you know, the abyss. And I need to do everything I can to keep this beautiful woman alive. And so it will put all those mechanisms in place, and as soon as you just stop putting your body through that, you know, you're on a new journey. But you have to be patient, and you have to accept that you're not going to get that euphoria when you jump on the scale and you've, you know, lost 6 pounds. But brackets, you know, you've not lost 6 pounds of fat anyway, and you have to accept that everybody's journey is different, and this is not a race, and you know, it's not another set of rules. It's going to be different for everybody.
I love that. I'm literally just sat here thinking, this is all the things I tell my clients that makes me feel almost endorsed this morning, of like, you're not hurting, because I'm not being funny. As a PT, we are dealing with vulnerable people every day, and you do want to think that you are doing a good job. You want to think that you are inspiring people to eat well for themselves and fuel their body and move their body and like feel good for it. And it is that, just like, I don't want to diet anymore. And there is no diet, and there is no short-term fix, unfortunately, not one that won't hurt your body, or end up with you probably weighing more than you did at the end of it. So it's kind of hoping people just go, yeah, I'm done. I'm absolutely done.
But people need support with that, right? We're not, this is the thing, we're not easy. We're not saying this is easy. And also, you will have people around you that are still very much trapped in diet culture. People around you who love you very much will still give you these subliminal messages. Come on, you know, even if you just do another, just try. And so it's very, very difficult. And then you've got, you know, society on top of that. So it's not easy, and that's why people need support with it, and they need to surround themselves by people and professionals who are all singing from the same hymn sheet, because that's ultimately what's going to get them there.
No, that's amazing. so I think we've gone through the damaging. I'm just looking. So we've gone through genetics, alternatives, good place to start. I think
Yeah.
like the last thing is kind of like maybe how, like, if people want to get in touch with you, like how, you know, they do that. So obviously you've got your download, which I think would be great for people. And I've said to the ladies and gents on the month with me, like, it's free information, download it, go and get this. Like anybody who's giving free information, soak it up. Like the more you can educate yourselves on the science of it, not some crazy mad
Yeah.
diet. Go and learn about
yeah. I said to you, didn't I, on the phone? I was like, I've spent more time on that flipping download than I did, I think, on my entire university education. So because, you know, it is so confusing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, right, it's not confusing, but I also need to make this, you know, like, what does the research actually say? So, so yeah, I hope that it's helpful for some. You will need a cup of tea. It's more than a couple of pages, but, you know, that's because, you know, the Daily Mail headline doesn't cover it. And, you know, you need to just go another level deeper than that, because it's about critical appraisal of what we see as a whole, you know, and that's the problem with headlines, is that they're like, one study shows this, and it's like, well, okay, number one, does it actually show that? And number two, what's the context? What else do we know in this field of study? And again, that's what a degree in dietetics gives you. It gives you the ability to critically appraise literature. Like, you know, it's not just, oh, I'm a blogger and I'm really into nutrition and I'm going to tell you about carb. Like, oh my God, you know?
That must be so frustrating for you.
Well,
yeah. But then it kind of gives you something to work with, doesn't it? And it kind of gives you highlights into what people are believing is going on and how you can help people, because that's the thing, like, people are just being sold different ideas all the time, and you kind of see somebody who's like, oh my God, I'm trying this new diet, and you can see all their friends commenting going, oh my God, what is it? It's that culture of like educating people.
I think it is, but I think, you know, I think our sort of registered nutritional professionals, I do think we dropped the ball, you know. I do think we were like, we have all the, you know, we have the knowledge and we have the skills to communicate with people, and that's all we need. And then social media came along, and all of these, you know, people that happen to have famous parents suddenly started talking about stuff, and we were like, whoa, hang on a minute, well, surely people aren't going to listen to them. And then we were like, oh, people are listening to them.
They will, yeah.
Kind of just spiraled out of control. And then, because, you know, we have science degrees, right? We don't have a degree in marketing, so we have been a bit slow to catch on. But there's some fantastic registered dietitians and registered nutritionists out on Instagram, and I would encourage you to follow them, because we're all there trying to spread a message. But yeah, the free download, I would definitely recommend.
Where do people find the free download? So if anybody's on here now and they're like, I want to go to that, how do they get there?
Just click on my Instagram thingy. That's the one, and it's just there. You click on the link and it's there. And also, if you're interested in working with me, you can book a discovery call, and I just set that link up as well. So if you just hit book now on my Instagram bio, you can book a discovery call with me for next week, and we can have a chat about how I can help. So that's a couple of options. And yeah, just give me a follow so that I can continue to support you that way as well. And then hopefully, I'm just starting now to write a course. So if people don't really want to work with me on a one-to-one basis, but they do want to just absorb all of this stuff and get their head around it some more and start to think differently, and it would complement perhaps all of the work that they're doing with you as well, then they can let me know that they're interested in that. And then as soon as it's live and available,
that's exciting,
then I will let them know. So and I'm writing that from my like little corner of the kitchen, standing on one leg. But I'm very excited about that, because it would be lovely to
the course
to have another
great. And I do think people do, like, it's almost going right from today. I'm not doing diets anymore, but I am going to educate myself on the stuff that you are speaking about, because I think that's so it's kind of giving you something to put in place of that, like, I'm getting out of this diet cycle, I've had enough of it, I'm jumping off, and I'm just going to cross the station and get on a new train. But it can take you to the same place that you want that diet to take you. However, it will take you to a much nicer place, you know, a much happier place, and a place where you will be healthier and you will feel so much better about yourself, more accomplished, instead of being on this train that constantly is hitting a wall and making you feel crap about yourself.
Yeah.
That analogy just came out of nowhere, but it sounds like a nicer train to get on. Like we're all on this crappy train, but get on the nicer one. Like I just feel like even if one person took this talk today and found themselves out of the hole that they're in, would definitely be worth them listening. So I'm really glad we've chatted.
Yes, me too. No, it's been really good. Thank you. If anyone's got any questions, then obviously fire away. Otherwise, we can we can
contact you. But let me know when your course is up and live, because I'd love to put something on the page to kind of tell people it's ready to go and to get on board. So and
thank you.
Pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving me your time on a Saturday morning. I could pick your brains all day, Laura. I could literally just do this all day. I love these talks, and I just hope other people do too. But it will go on to my IGTV now, and then it will go over to my YouTube. So if anybody hasn't listened to the whole thing, or you speak to somebody and you think, if you want to get to know me a bit more, like, it'll be over there, and I'll send you a copy so you can have it as well.
Fantastic, thanks.
But enjoy your Saturday.
You too, and thanks for tuning in, everybody, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Bye.